Welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home program. My name is Lopez. I'm with the National Association of Latino Independent Producers. Before we're joined by our guest today, I want to let you know that the SAG-AFTRA Foundation is a nonprofit organization that relies entirely on donations to provide emergency assistance and free educational programs to SAG-AFTRA artists. This conversation is made possible thanks to the generosity of our supporters. Over the past year, the foundation has given over $7 million in COVID relief to more than 7,500 performers. If you're a SAG-AFTRA artist and need help, please ask. And if you can help, please give. Information can be found in the description of this video. Thank you for your support. Now, without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce actors Danay Garcia, Deirdre Lovejoy, Carlos Gómez, Lovensky Jean-Baptiste, Aidan Quinn of SPIKED. Welcome, guys.
How are you guys doing?
Hey.
Good. Yeah, this is great to get together. So I'd love to get started with the genesis of this program, right? You guys were able to create magic in this specific film. Every story has an origin. Why don't we start with the director? Give us a little bit of background and tell us how all of this came together, specifically the material. Where did the material come from, and at what point? Let's talk about the performance aspect of it, the actors that you're starting pulling in from. So, Juan, can you start with you? Tell us a little bit about you, and then introduce us into the material.
Yeah, sure. My name is Juan Martinez Vera. I'm a film director and writer. And the genesis for the project was Joe Soboro, or executive producer, wanted to make a film about his life experience. And he gave me a little document with everything that he has gone through. And I read a part that caught my eye. There was this moment in his life where he started a newspaper to denounce police abuse in his area. And I immediately turned to Joe and I'm like, this is a movie. Like this is great. This is good material. So I started reading the newspapers that he had published back in the early 2000s. And I was shocked to see, some of the events that happened, how police could go and raid houses without warrants and, do all these things that seemed to be very, borderline, corruption, like it was a little bit like a movie. I was like, I can't believe this is real. So that was the original inspiration for the screenplay. I started writing the screenplay and, I later attached producer Per Melita, who came along and helped me develop the script and later on attached the cast. But yeah, it was all, a labor of love based on the themes of police brutality and justice. And it was everything was inspired on real events. So it was a very nice experience to work with that kind of story.
So I'm so glad that you provided that context. So you have words on paper, right? But they can't come alive without amazing performers that can essentially inhabit each of those characters. So do you mind introducing each of the cast members that are here and also provide a little context, why them, right? Because I'm sure that you guys did a deep search, right? What was it about them that brought that special, the pixie dust into the role, that magical element that they are as actors?
Sure. I mean, I'll start with Jean-Baptiste, Lovensky, Jean-Baptiste. His role originally, I had envisioned somebody who was naive and, in the screenplay. But when I saw his work, I was taken away by his ability to not be a straightforward, naive police officer, or it wasn't what I wrote, but I loved the way he could bring his roughness to the role. And I thought it was better to not be too obvious and just paint him as a regular police officer who he's not hiding anything or he's not giving away too much just by the appearance. So that was part of the reason why I really liked him for that role. And Danay Garcia, I'm a big fan of her work. So that, when she was available for the role, I was just honored to, have her be part of the production. But, what impressed me the most is her range. She has so much, not only from the performance point of view, but from, writing notes and, she thinks like a producer too. She has all these abilities. So I was very impressed by her background. So that was another reason why I decided to go with Danay. And Aidan Quinn, you know, it's like a dream come true working with him. All his experience in Hollywood. It was more than an honor to be working with him. And, you know, I remember our initial conversation was a phone call, and I was so nervous to talk to him because, you know, he's done so much work and so many great roles. And I was just a little nervous, but as we spoke on the phone, he opened up, and, you know, immediately I could sense the energy between us. And I realized that he was the right actor for that role. And for me, you know, because this was my first feature film, and I was, you know, I needed to know the actors that I was working with, and I needed to know that I could work with them and they could listen to me, they could take my direction, that I could listen to them. This energy had to be there. And immediately on that phone call, I felt it. And I, you know, I was very honored that he accepted the role, and we moved forward in the film with them. And Deirdre Lovejoy, again, you know, The Wire, you know, big fan. I've always watched the show, and, you know, when she was also interested, I was, you know, beyond floor to invite her to the film. And, you know, our conversation was also, I was also nervous to talk to her, but immediately, you know, she started asking a lot of questions about the role, and that immediately told me, wow, like, she understands it, she wants to do it, she's very passionate about the story. And the immigration issue was something that was happening back then that was very present and relevant. So I felt like she cared for that aspect as well. So I really, really liked that. Carlos Gómez was another of those actors that I've followed, and I was very, very pleased to have him on board. I think we talked very, very briefly before the production, because I think you were in Miami or you were in another city. Mm-hmm. He had to fly into Tucson. So you know, his role was a part of the main character's life. His role was more about like being the character that balances out his past and the present. So there was a lot of things that he had to, you know, pick up really quickly in order to catch up to the story. And I was just honored to have Carlos be part of the film. Thank you, Carlos.
You're welcome, brother.
Awesome. Thank you for providing that context. It's so important. So a lot of times folks think that it's the director auditioning the actors, right? That's happening part of the time. But the majority of the time is actually the actors, they're auditioning the director. They want to know if you can trust this vision and it's going to allow you to inhabit this character. So I want to you know, popcorn it a little bit. I want to see if you guys agree with that or not, or how was the process working with Juan, right? I know he's going to be a little bit on the hot seat. He gets to know why you guys did it. So is it okay to start maybe with Jean-Baptiste, and then you can tell me about that? Were you auditioning? What was it about Juan's vision here? And was it a combination of the material? I don't know if he showed you a lookbook. What was that conversation like? And if you don't mind, let's popcorn into the rest of the other performance, because I want to hear from you as well. So, but let's start with you.
Yeah, you've got a great script. You've got an excited director. We meet in Hollywood, and you kind of are auditioning the director. You see, you know, you take a look at Juan, and you hear what he wants to communicate with his film, and then you're like, wow, this is gonna hit. Like, this is impactful. It's like socially and significant. It was relevant. I just felt his energy. I felt like he really wanted to tell his story. I felt like he had a connection to it personally. You know, I'm also an immigrant, you know, Juan's Latino. It just really hit. It just really connected. And I saw that his vision was just for what this was going to be was really raw and organic. So, you know, we did it with a bunch of other actors, and we just connected, and we were like, wow, we had these moments in the room where he just was really, really feeling what I was doing. And I was like, okay, I'm able to communicate, and I knew I wanted to work with him.
My first conversations with Juan were great. I mean, I just wanted to, you know, always when you're working, particularly when you're working on a lower budget thing that's, you know, is going to have to be shot very quickly and everything, you know, that you want to have a trust and you want to be able to bring what actors bring to a thing. And I immediately felt his openness and his listening, and that he was going to consider ideas that we had, or let us try something. And if he didn't like it, he'd tell us. But so that was extremely important to me. And particularly when you're working on this short budget, and when it's 108 degrees and the tarmac is melting under your feet, you know. And I'd like to just say, looking at this participant of galleries, I like the diversity of the cast that we have. We have Cuban Americans, Mexican Americans, Irish Americans, Black Americans, and looking at me, I represent the red-faced American. Well, because today was the first day that they opened a golf course on the East Coast, and so I went golfing with no sunscreen. So I'm the red-faced American. Wow. But there was a lot of red-faced days in that heat in Tucson. But it was a wonderful time working with this cast and Juan, and on the story that we all felt a great connection to.
I'll never forget, talking about bonding. The first time I showed up on set, I met Juan. We talked over the phone, but then, and I loved the entire take on the movie, the vision, the reason why we're doing it. A movie that was based in the 90s, but it's so real right now. It just felt like, usually when you tell a story, you're like, oh, I want to just tell this part of the story, the history, but it's basically happened today. And we're like, what? But then going to Tucson and showing up my first day at work, I remember Aidan was like, hey, welcome. It's hot. And I'm like, oh, I can tell. Hey, welcome, but it's hot. And it was just like, okay, this is going to be fun. I mean, yeah, it's uncomfortable. And, the car we were in broke like 3 times because it was so hot. But we just, we use that to like Aidan said, like it's a really fast paced shoot. And either you feel it, either you embrace the challenges and, put it all out there. Like, it's hot, Johnny's hot, and, my character is hot. Well, let's just use it. And it's just that kind of like connection that we don't have to talk about. It was instantly created. And you just kind of like, when you say yes to this kind of job, you just go with that. And you just hope that everybody has the same kind of like approach. And it's just like Lovensky said, it was really nice to kind of like, have that first day with Aidan and be just like, hey, I know you're Cuban, but I'm like, no, this is hot. Like that. I don't care where you come from. Like there's no way to deal with this other than just that we're going to go crazy. And then you see Juan with a big hat, like, hi guys, are you guys ready? Like, it's like, you just see everybody just embracing that, the fact that we're really here to tell the story. And it just felt like, and every actor felt that way, like, just with, working with Carlos and Aidan, seeing their connection, like coming from a different place. And, I just met also Carlos. So we were like having this really cool. It just felt really great. And just feel really honored to have that, it was really nice.
I think Juan's enthusiasm was just sort of the umbrella that we all operated under. It could have been 150 degrees, and on a few days it was. And like you mentioned, tarmac was literally melting, and dogs were dying, and cars were piercing faces and things like that. And I still have a scar right there.
No, I remember that. The car on my face. That's right. Yeah.
But his enthusiasm and his commitment to not just telling the story, but telling the story with specificity and with truth. Is really important when you're melting all the time. You need someone that's going to keep people on track, remind us all what the story is we're telling, because you remember we all are, not necessarily working together at the same time. So, for example, I didn't meet Danay until a couple of days before I was wrapped, and there are people that in sections of the film that we just didn't get to see until the final product was released, and that is all all of it was seamless because of Juan's vision and his commitment to, telling a really important story. So
thank you.
Yeah. So I came kind of late into the project, but once I knew I had known Juan as a director, and we had mutual friends. And then once I heard the cast that was already, attached to the film, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I was dying to work with Aidan, and I knew Sal, and I knew Danay was in it too. And I just thought this, and the story was fantastic. It was hard for me because I was focusing more on the relationship with Aidan and having a history between us. So that's what I was focusing the most. But we all went out there and we went to war in the sun.
Wonderful. So
the actors were fantastic. And Sal he's not in this voice call, but I think his work in this movie was just beautiful. And I've known Sal for years, and so happy for him to be in the film too. So
an amazing cast. So full disclosure, I grew up in Tucson. I know what that heat is like. It's definitely something that will motivate you, or it will definitely overwhelm you. So one of the things that we know about building characters, because a lot of this conversations is to start unpeeling the layers of what it was like for you to approach your character. We want to demystify things because it's a little bit different. It's so fascinating to get into the inside baseball of your craft. So you had this external pressure, but now what I want to know is the internal motivation for your characters. I'm curious to see the way you approached it, specifically because the theme, it's about social justice, right? That's the underlying background and theme. But your own personal character had to have a motivation. So I'm wondering if we can start on layering some of that, and what was that process for you? Specifically, hopefully you had, I know that you had amazing scenes, but I'm sure that the other actors gave you a lot to work with. So I'm wondering who wants to start, discussing that. I want to talk about that internal. Give me that search. What did was it notes? Was it photos besides the script? Did you have long conversations with the director? Did you get to meet maybe locals that gave you ideas, hints? And then, of course, if you want to talk about your own personal preparation, that's also really exciting. You know what? I'll call it out. I'll start with Aidan. What was, besides playing golf, getting ready and relaxing you, how do you prepare before you fly down and you start approaching a character?
Well, you don't play golf in Tucson in the month we were there. I tried. I think I got 6 holes in and I quit on the day off. It was too hot. What Juan had sent me was the tapes of Joe, and Joe was my character was based on Joe, and Joe is also the financier for the film. It's his story, that Juan, wrote with him. It's fictionalized, of course, but there's an awful lot of elements in it that are very true. So what I got to do was listen to some very long interviews that Juan happened to share with me beforehand, thankfully. And so I would just listen to them again and again and again and again. And then I did get to hang out with him too on the days that he came and visited us and was on the set and that. And he was particularly a fascinating character, completely politically incorrect, despite the social justice issues of this thing. The man himself is he could get canceled on any day of any week from the things coming out of his mouth because of he's just such an irascible character. So I was really trying to make sure that we had some of that edge of his. He doesn't govern what comes out of his mouth very well, and that's one of the reasons he's a great character. So basically, it was that, and like Carlos was said, trying to create a history. We're supposed to be very, very old friends, and we're just meeting, and so we work on that, and so that was it. As much as I could, just read about the actual incidents, how they happened, when they happened, and then interviewing the man I was playing about how he felt about these things. Quick
follow up before I go to the next performance. How much improv were you allowed to do, or you bring into the set? Is that something that you discuss with Juan? And I don't know, Juan, maybe you can jump in there a little bit. Like, is there a room to work with there? Were you allowed to bring in your own lines, or maybe you just felt that the character wanted to say something?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Juan's very open to, adding a little line here and there, and if it comes up, and there was, I think it was important that was there, because it also gives a certain playfulness, a certain, actors like to be on their toes, with each other too sometimes, and sometimes things just happen that just you have to be able to react, because it wasn't written in the script. It doesn't matter, but what the person wrote in the script for you to do this scene in a bathtub, and you're shooting in a palace. You just have to adjust, and so we were allowed to do that very well. And it's not something I generally ask a director to do unless the script is so beautifully written that you don't ever want to touch it, one word of it. But I think it's just generally, you kind of just do it until you're told not to.
That's good to know. That's good to know. So, Deirdre, can you elaborate on that? Can you elaborate? Because obviously, work with Dave Simon, you work, and many different directors, and everybody's a little bit different. You're working with a first-time director on a big feature, right? And always super talented. You had conversation to vet him, but now you really got to get to the core of your character. Can you go into that process?
I said, Juan, I can't deal with this. I'm not saying a word of this. Of course, I think that's the great thing about collaborating on a film is that my experience is, my sort of ground rule is I bless my heart, try to go in word perfect so that I can have something to deviate from. But in this particular case, there was great. Juan was very malleable and very welcome to any suggestions when certain things just wouldn't fit or come out of my mouth properly or something like that. He was always there with oh, sure, that's a great change, or that's a better word choice there. And it was very collaborative and very, I think part of the whole process of finding the language of each of the characters is wrapped up in that ability to transform the script to each individual.
Yeah, and can I just say, I think that's one of Juan's great gifts is that, because a lot of times, particularly in film, actors, we know our characters better than the directors know our characters, because the directors have to know 40, 50 characters. We only have one, right? We should know them better than the director, That's our job. But so allowing those things around the edges of a scene is really, really good, really important. It doesn't need to happen. If the script is brilliant, I will not change one iota of it. And if it fits the thing, like on stage, it's different. We know the playwright knows what the stage is, where the scene is, what the thing is. But in film, everything is changing all the time. So you need to be malleable and to somewhat, and so that's one of his great gifts, I think.
Thank you. Danay, what was your experience like, especially your project? I know you go from the mentality of possibly killing zombies, right? And disconnecting, decompressing from completely different. And then you go into this environment, and tell us a little bit about your character and the way you approached her.
I felt like a huge responsibility because my work with Juan is like I have to work with him in Spanish and in English. I was the one that translated certain things. I was in some way John's voice for the cause that he's actually fighting for. Like he would say things and I would just translate. And when you come from another country and you speak both languages, you attract this kind of roles that manage to go in both ways and, be able to work with Juan in both languages and to be able to be like, this is how I want to communicate that to him, to the Hispanic community. And this is how I want to communicate to John. And, talking about a conflict, it was a very delicate work to kind of like to keep it all balanced and well put together, you know, and you know, and it was really, we have a funny story that I was saying this big monologue in Spanish that we worked on, and then Aidan's supposed to like come after I finish, and I said testigos. I'm not gonna say, and then Aidan was like, I just wait for you to say testicles. I was like, what did I say testicles? He's like, well, I've said testigos, that means witness. It's like, oh my God. That's like, but you know, those are moments as actors. It's like we work with what we've got, you know, like that was Aidan's way to like, okay, like it's funny because it's a movie in English, but he touches a subject that it's like not in, you know, in John's culture, like it's Spanish. It's we're talking to like an entire, he's fighting for their rights. So it's inevitable to kind of like, deal with it at some point. So I was that role that was swinging, you know, from one extreme to the other. And it was just really beautiful to have a director that understands both worlds, you know, and that I could communicate in both languages and come up with monologues and dialogues and things that, you know, that will make sense. You know, sometimes I have, as an actor, I have to do that with a director that does not even speak Spanish. I will have to go through a director, through a writer and another writer so he can trust that what I'm doing, it's faithful to the story. So this was very easy this time. Yeah.
That's
but
great.
The testicles and testicles, Aidan, I would never, ever forget that.
That is fun.
Testicles, that's me.
Now he knows.
Now I say
That'll be
something.
the spin-off movie, of course. And Carlos, I was wondering about, this is great, right? Because you're playing around with a character. Latinos are not a monolith, right? There's also the human experience is so complex. So within your character that's inhabiting all these possibilities, I'm just curious how you found your character's moral center and your process in that. How were you able to accomplish that?
You know, it's funny because I said I got there quickly and I had to create a relationship with Aidan immediately. But one thing that I got to meet the person that I played, and I got to hang out with him and I got to talk to him. And he explained to me his relationship with John, and they were like pretty crazy, wild, young guys when they were younger. So I wanted to bring that element to our relationship, you know, within the script and whatever we can do. So it was really important for me to have a depth of relationship with Aidan that the audience can feel like, oh yeah, these guys have hung out for a while, or they know each other. But then when you see the other part of the movie, which is like, sometimes it feels like two movies in one because of the subject matter that we're dealing with. I was like, wow, that's, you know, it's a fine balance as an actor to not overplay or not like, and still keep the seriousness of it, but also bring the relationship that you guys have had for all your life. So it was a little complex for me to do that fine line, like Danay said as well.
Copy. And Lovensky, what about you? Do you start with a bio? Tell us about specifically as you approach the construction of the character and also the confrontations that you got to have to develop the arc of your character. And it's hard to do because obviously the scenes are shot out of sequence. So I'm just curious about your approach.
Well, you got, you know, like Carlos just said, it's about relationships. His character had this amazing relationship with John, and my cop partner, he's not here, Walter, but you know, God bless his heart, we had this dynamic relationship, and it was all about, you know, two cops. So we auditioned together, and then we, you know, found out we got it together, and then we, you know, we learned, you know, how to be policemen together, and then, you know, now we're shooting together, and we have to have this conflict, you know. So I approached it based on that, you know, like building this relationship with this person, because Ricky had a conflict, you know, he had an internal conflict. He was coming from a dark past, and he was here in the middle of the desert trying to become something better or different. And, you know, he had some temptation, you know, along the way. So it was always about finding a way to feel like, you know, what draws you in either direction, what's pulling you this way, what's pulling you that way, and finding little things that people around you are doing, the relationships around you that say, okay, you know, I like what he's doing. Maybe I'll go this way. I like what this person's doing. Maybe I'll go that way. And that was what I did. And I really relied on Walter a lot for that. And it was how I found Ricky, pretty much.
Was there a moment in the film that your character surprised himself about doing like a choice, maybe a particular choice, specifically maybe around confrontation, or maybe the climax, or
oh yeah, I mean, we've had some scenes, and I remember we were in the evidence room one time, and I don't know, no spoilers. Can I give spoilers? Yeah. We're in the evidence room, and then Juan's just like, he just wants something crazy. He wants us to go for it this time. We do the regular takes, we do coverage, we do a couple close-ups and whatnot. But then he's like, okay, we can't. We're about to leave. We're about to walk out. But before we walk out, he's like, how about we just do it one more time? You guys just do whatever you want, and just like let out anything that you think this character wouldn't say, And then I found, we're around weapons, and like all the anger that was built into this character from running away from what he was going through. And, just like, being a cop, we just let it out in that one scene, and it's just about, there's a lot of aggression, there's a lot of aggression in police officers. There's a lot of this and that. And we just let it out. I found that come out of me, because I'm usually chill. But
the uniform gave you some of that, the gun, maybe like your character. Yeah. You see yourself in the mirror.
The blow everywhere. Like,
yeah.
It's like we're in like a police, evidence cage, and it had that energy. So I was surprised. I was shocked, to find that.
So this story, it's a very challenging story to do as a first film. So I'm gonna go to Juan really quick, because I'm wondering, like, the risk that you have to take as an independent filmmaker. First of all, this is even before the domestic box office taking a big hit because of COVID and other factors, right? Less and less people are actually going to the movie in theater. So as a director, I want to make sure that Latinos are not a dying, breed. A Latino, especially coming in from the Student DGA Award, where I met Juan before he won that award. So I knew that there was promise. But then we know that he's trying to approach material. So Juan is trying to find the best material to direct, and he's trying to build the world. So I want to get into your headspace, Juan, if you can allow us, of here you are trying to do the best you can to tell the story. But then there's the climb, the mountain climb that you got to do. Literally go to one of the hottest places on earth, short of Yuma and the Mojave Desert, right? Here you are in Tucson, taking in a very challenging story. And on top of that, you're adding the layers of corruption, the layers of humanity. You're bringing in a crew that they also have to earn your trust, and you're earning their trust. And you have this amazing cast. So take us there, if you don't mind. Take us into that space.
Yeah, absolutely. So our executive producer, Joel Salgado, he wanted to film in Arizona. That was, it was an Arizona story. He wanted to stay there. He wanted to work with local crews. So everybody was local. The only people who were not from Arizona was myself, my producing partner, some of the cast members here. But everybody from, the Grips, everybody was local. So that was part of the assignment. And as I traveled through Arizona, I discovered Bisbee. Bisbee is this small little mining town in the border of Mexico. And I was like, this is it. It has to be, this is the town for the story, because it's such a world. It's such a world. It's so different from everything. And originally the story was set in California, in lettuce fields. And I was like, no, I have to rewrite everything. It has to be about mining. It has to be about Bisbee. This is Arizona, and that was part of the reason why we were there in the summer under 100+ degrees. But yeah, I mean the characters.
But Bisbee was nice and cool. Bisbee's 20 degrees cooler. That was the best part.
Right.
That's true. Bisbee was cooler because it was high altitude.
It was only Tucson.
Tucson was the one.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth, Juan. We shot in Tucson in August because nobody else would. So you can get the best crew for a little bit of money because nobody else is shooting in Tucson because nobody's crazy enough to shoot.
I remember the
we had a great
UPM
crew.
Yeah, the UPM telling me, "Are you sure about this? Like, this is gonna be crazy for people who don't live here. It's gonna be shocked to film in the hot weather." But like Aidan said, we were lucky. Every bad thing brings a good thing. So we were blessed to have a lot of the crew that was not working at the time join our production, and we were blessed to have very hardworking, very good, experienced crew to help us with the movie. But going back to the challenge of the story, I think one of the big challenges for me was telling a story with so many characters. I realized that all of them had so much story to themselves that I almost felt sorry for Danay's character. I was like, oh my God, Danay's character, she could have like 20 minutes more. Like, Deirdre's character has so much history. So I found myself at a point where I had to shave their storyline to just tell the one story I wanted to tell. And I think that was the most challenging, to orchestrate everybody's story so that we were all telling the same one story. I assume it's easier, to do it with fewer characters. Every story is different and difficult, but for me, it was definitely a challenge to, write every single character out, their storyline, and bring it all together was definitely the challenge that I found.
How much rehearsal did you have? I'm curious about, like, from the moment some of the actors arrived. I'm sure you had obviously the read-throughs, but I'm curious how much time you had to do that, to establish that in blocking and things, because it's hot. So on a hot set, you got to move. So I'm curious about that process.
I mean, before the film started, it was minimum to none. It was, go and film. During the filming, when everybody was in town, we took some time to read over some scenes. I remember Aidan was great at that, being available. I would go to his hotel room and we would read some of the scenes, and we found out that there were some scenes that didn't work. We had to, restructure them and really, bring down what we really needed to tell for that particular scene. So we did have some small pockets in between production to rehearse and to go over the scenes with everybody.
During the actual filming, a lot of actors are very sometimes aware about the type of lens that you're already putting on the camera. So they kind of adjust the performance to it. And then you guys could, obviously, I know some of you guys are smiling. Sometimes right? And then sometimes, obviously, whether their back is to the camera or not, how much to give, how much energy. I'm wondering, how was that dynamic for you? Because I'm sure you've had a chance to practice before, but here you got this professional actors, they're running with it. Not that you didn't work with professional actors before, but they're on the time and you don't want to go in overtime, right? So you got to make sure that you deliver. So I'm just curious about that.
I took care of their energy more than anything. You have a limited amount of energy from each actor. There's just so much energy they can give you when there's like a hot room or the hot sun, that, you have to be fast, economical, and you have to ask them when, okay, now's your close-up. This is the moment. You have to be design the shooting around the energy, because you don't want to keep one actor waiting the whole day and then, suddenly you shoot their close-up and now they're depleted, because the environment, the crew, everything affects their energy. And for me, it's just about taking care of that energy and making sure it doesn't get wasted in just production stuff. I want to put it on the screen as much as possible.
I was actually on that note. I was actually talking about the energy. I was very impressed with Aidan in that note, because his role is always very like at the. He just gets a text and he's about to explode. And, we're all about to explode without a text message from like the archaic character. He had to really work that out. And I meant to tell you that, Aidan, but everything happened so fast. It's like, my role is always like, oh, calm down. But then he leaves and he goes to like, Didi's role and he explodes there. Like, and then he goes to, and then his wife, and that role was so demanding of energy, and the way that you handle that personally as an actor was very, in the circumstances, bear in mind, I work in hot situations. I mean, I'm used to it, but it was very cool to see someone be able to balance that out and protect that, it's very hard. So I just wanted to put that out there. It's really
that's great.
I mean, I think I just always try to, when it comes to things like that, the weather and that, you just try to realize that, first of all, we're so lucky, we're grateful, we're doing something we love, and we're doing it by choice. But the character is also living in that energy, and he's not necessarily thinking or whining about it. So, there were a few times, there were once or twice where I got really upset with, but only once or twice. But I've done movies in the Amazon jungle for 6 months, so you learn that you have to keep an even keel. You try to just do the best you can, and they say in sports, the people that in competitions, in golf, for example, people that moan about the wind and the rain and the weather, they've already lost, because the person that has a good attitude is not focusing on that. They're trying to hit the ball and let the wind take it. They're trying to play with what's here, instead of moaning about it. And when we all think of what is going on in the world today, as my wife and I said as we cried watching the recent Ukrainian videos, we looked at each other. My wife said, we can never, ever complain about anything. And that's how kind of I feel today, because it's just, we're lucky. We're so lucky. We're very lucky. We're so blessed we're so blessed that we get to do this with each other and do this job.
I feel like so much has happened since we made the movie.
I know. It feels like 10 years have gone by.
I know.
Remember the days when we went to a restaurant without a mask?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
It's crazy. One thing I want to say just really quick. I always, it's not only having great actor, but having the chemistry that you have with other actors. I think that was really special in this film more than anything, because I think we were all in one place. It was hot. We all had to kind of survive it. And I think the chemistry that everybody had, I think came across on the film a lot.
Absolutely. And
anybody else?
And that's casting. That's one. I mean, that's casting. Yeah. That's how you put together a company that, it works together. Yeah.
A big shout out to Avi Kaufman, the casting director. She was an amazing collaborator, and she's wonderful.
And to the lead actor, whoever he was, that 2 weeks before filming, that you still won't tell me his name, bowed out when I got the call.
That's how I feel too, but
he still won't.
That's okay.
We
all want to know who bowed out. I want to know who bowed out of my part too.
Tom Cruise had this Mission Impossible thing he had to do.
Tom Cruise.
Listen, I've taken the sweepings of many a great actors, and I'm happy to do it.
Lucky us.
So speaking of being blessed for this moment, and obviously folks who are watching this specific conversation, many of them are SAG-AFTRA actors, right? And so there's the next generation that's coming, right? There's the ones that are still eligible, maybe SAG eligible, but there's the ones that are desiring to become just like you. So I'm wondering if you can, each of you, take us back to that moment before you were a SAG-AFTRA actor and what you were hoping to achieve in this industry, and whether and where are you at in your thesis of achievement? Like, where are you at on the goals that you set for yourselves, and specifically the type of projects like this one that you're taking on? Where are you at in that journey as you are? I know I'm asking that question because I really want to go to the genesis, but also I want people to be inspired by your own journey. So who wants to go first? Let's popcorn it. Let's have fun with this.
I'm gonna go first. When I first came to this country, I remember I started doing commercials, and they said, you need to join SAG. And I just what is that? I had no idea. Why do I have to join SAG to do a commercial? And then I did, and obviously, but then what I realized is that, when you start this business as an actor, you feel like this business is so big. Everywhere you see actors, everywhere you see people wanting to act. And all of a sudden, when you join SAG, you feel like finally you feel like you're a community. Like there's a community of actors, and you don't feel like you're so spread out everywhere. And it's funny, like, are you SAG? Yes, I'm SAG. It becomes this thing of like, when do you join? And for the first time, I started having those conversations with actors apart from acting. and I remember feeling that some sort of community and following, the rules that we're going through, and, healthcare, like all these things that come with being an actor, apart from just telling a story and your rights and all these things that came with it, and who's the president and the actors, and then the awards and that community was something that I'm very proud to feel. When Juan let me know about this SAG-AFTRA, this call, I was so proud to be like, oh yes, I want to support this community of actors. Because we live this great experiences acting in sets, like going, but at the end of the day, we finish, but we still part of that community. It's not just that movie, is really what keeps us together. And I remember feeling that for the first time in a new country, and, and all these new things that you have to catch up with, that you feel like, okay, I'm part of SAG. I'm very proud of it. And all the great things that come with it.
Union. Yeah. Community.
Community was something I felt with, and the part of the community thing had nothing to do with being Latino, or it was just like, we're actors, we're part of it. Was like a universal feel to it. It was just so cool.
Yeah, I got it felt like getting a badge,
Yeah.
You got the badge. My first time I was out there doing I was trying to get waivers, doing extra work, trying to get a line and trying to get something going. And that was, a while back ago. And I just remember just really chasing this thing like SAG. It's like, I'm going to be in the union. I'm going to make a living out of this career. I'm going to make this dream a reality, and finding any way I could, trying to figure out, I heard you can get you can get your SAG card if you do this. I heard you can get your SAG card if you do that. I heard this person selling waivers, like someone's laying waivers on the side, like anything, But, we got in, and, like, I know for me, it was always about like having fun. I just remember being on those sets, even doing background, when I first started, I was still in college, and it's just about having fun. And it's still fun to this day. Like we're out in Tucson cooking, but we were having fun, and I think that's still where I am on my journey, is trying to learn how to remember that this is the best job in the world, and to keep that in mind, and to find a place where it's like, I'm doing something that I really love, despite all the frustration that comes along with it, not going the way that you want it sometimes, which we all know as actors.
Don't we all?
Yeah. But it's about, it's about fun. And that's where I think I am in my thesis is, just looking at it like, look how dope this is. Look what we do, and you can kind of do whatever you want. It's like we're SAG. We're in.
As far as SAG goes, I mean, I was just in London and I was meeting someone, and they were asking me, can you work not SAG? They wanted me to maybe do something over there. Can you work not SAG? And I said, what do you mean work not SAG? What does that mean? He said, well, can you work under Actors Equity over here? I said, I'm a member of Actors Equity, but not that one. This one over here. Because why would I want to do that? Well, we like to do it. We're like trying to do these new productions now, not SAG, when we work with SAG actors. I said, no. I said, everything about the residuals that we get, that nobody else gets in the world, British Equity, any of the other film unions of that. We have survived, all of us, at lean times because a check comes in the mail, when just out of the blue, when it comes and you needed it, and there's that. And, so I'm very, very proud and very, very happy to be part of SAG and AFTRA. And during the COVID, I just said, you know what? I don't know when I'm working again. I can take early pension. I'm taking my pension early. And I did. And it said, I went, oh my God, I can relax. I can pay my taxes, my this, my that. I just took my SAG-AFTRA pensions. And, you know, I didn't get penalized for it. I mean, I love SAG-AFTRA. So it's been a huge thing. As far as like career, there's been huge disappointments in my career. There's been huge highs. There's been, you know, but the greatest part is the community of working with other actors. That's the most fun. That's the best and the most fulfilling, not just fun. It's sometimes not fun at all. It's really hard, but that's the most fulfilling part of it. And I might just back it up. I don't see too many actors knowing what lens and worrying about what lens someone's going to use and this and that. Very, very few. Faye Dunaway, yes. She knew exactly what lens she wanted, and she told the lighting guy what the f-stop was on the light before she knew. But no, most of us are not concerned with that stuff too much, you know. We're more concerned with just, you know, doing the best job in the scene. Anyway, but my last piece of advice to young actors would be do it yourself, write it, do it, produce it. Don't wait for the phone call like in my generation. Waiting for the phone call is particularly now with all the streaming stuff and all the work that is possibly out there, get together with your friends that are writers, directors, and learn to write or, you know, produce, whatever. That would be my number one thing. Don't do it, create the work.
I was going to say, apropos of the conversation, that when I first joined SAG-AFTRA, I looked like this.
Oh my God. That is so cool.
And that is how long I have been in SAG-AFTRA. And my wish was to have a life, you know, working in and being an actor in television and in film. And so I've achieved that, at least, if nothing else. And I echo everything, all the sentiments people have said about community and a sense of home and belonging and engendering, you know, an ability to uplift other artists as opposed to not being a good contributor to the collective. You know, I really think that's an important thing when we think of our union. It really does contribute to the greater good, and I appreciate the SAG Foundation as well.
Yeah. Wow. Equity was my first union because I did theater before. So I remember everybody would say like, wow, you know, those people who got their SAG card was like a huge deal to get the SAG card from Equity. And I remember I got my SAG card dancing in a Bud Light commercial for the Spanish network. So it was like I was like, this is what I got. And then I'm immigrant, my parents are Cuban. And when I told my parents that I had health insurance, that was the first time that they thought like, okay, he's doing something with his life, you know, because all of a sudden I was part of a union and I had health insurance. So that was huge. And ever since, like Aidan was saying, you know, I made my life out of residuals working in television. And the fact that you knew that residual was going to be there and that that residual wasn't going to be missing or they forgot it or, you know, like clockwork, I could rely on the residuals that I was getting from SAG. So that was a huge part of it. And I think actors, you know, we don't think about that a lot. You know, we think, oh yeah, the union's there, but it only comes across when we really need the union. When something goes wrong or something that they're always there. I think that's really important to let the younger people know how important our union is because, you know, like anything, things just go by and, you know, they go, oh yeah, the union. But I just hope that the younger generation knows the need as actors that we need to be protected by our union. What else? Yeah. And, you know, being Latin in this industry, I've been incredibly blessed to have been working consistently. And Ben, what you're doing with this foundation and helping other Latino actors and Latino directors and producers and people coming up, I think it's you know, it's what we need. and thank you for what you do for us. And that's pretty much it, man. It's just having a good time, working with good people, working with people that are better than you to elevate your, when I saw that Aidan was doing this, I thought it's always, for me, it's like, what can I learn from them? What can I learn? What difference, acting styles or whatever. It's really about the community and learning and getting better with it and being appreciative that we get paid to do what we do.
I feel really fortunate to be able to hear your experiences, the journey, how lucky we are to even be having this conversation, right? To be able to chop it up a little bit and demystify things. So speaking of this demystifying things, I want to go to Juan really quick because he's actually taken in a bigger challenge in life and career, right? Because I know film, especially indie film, is an actor's domain. TV is a little bit more in the writer's domain. Actors have an opportunity to do both, right? In this day and age, right? There's a lot more TV. But I'm curious from your perspective, Juan, what's next? What's next for you? Are you taking on more film, or are you going to start working more on the TV side of things? And then after that, I'm going to just ask everybody kind of like, what's next for you as well? I'm going to be asking you, what are you working on? But also, what else do you have on the side? Maybe you're producing on the side. Maybe you're doing this on the side. But let me go to Juan first, and then we'll recap it with everybody's journey. I want to know what's the future hold for us. So Juan, can you go first and tell me about your journey as a director?
Sure. I'm currently developing more independent films, more stories that I find honest to myself and more personal than before. I find so that's my main concentration right now. But I'm an extremely open filmmaker. So if a project comes to me and it speaks to me and it feels real and I'm in love with it, it doesn't matter if it's TV, web, even theater. I will do whatever it takes, as long as it's a story that I care about, that I want to show to the world. And that's my process, basically. Being open-minded and just being honest with the stories that you choose to tell.
Doing a little writing and producing myself based on the show that I was on Netflix called Startup. Do a little prequel of that. Animated series coming out, voicing 2 characters, comes out in the fall. And yeah, just doing writing, trying to produce some stuff and shoot some stuff as well.
Well, I'm doing another season of Fear the Walking Dead, but this time I'm kind of like negotiated of the idea of directing an episode, which I got accepted to do, which I'm really, really excited. This is such a big deal for me because, after we finished the movie, pandemic hit, and, as artists, it's like, what else? There has to be more in me. The world really needs stories, and that's how we learn. That's how we get inspired. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go into this territory. And, always exploring writing is something I tell everybody to do. Just whatever is inside, put it on the paper. So that's always been something I want to continue to nurture.
I'm currently in New York. I came out here because I just thought after the pandemic, I really wanted to do some theater. And I've always found some great writing in theater out here for Latinos. So I came out here to New York, but of course, as soon as I got here, I did a Law and Order that airs tonight. And I just finished a guest star on Blacklist. And so I'm waiting for my theater gig between TV shows. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. I kind of want to do theater for a little bit now. So
wonderful. Deirdre.
Yeah.
I just shot 3 episodes of The Blacklist that'll start airing.
That's cool.
Next week, I think. And I have been recurring on that show for about 8 years now. It's crazy.
Wow.
And other than that, I look for my next adventure.
Wow.
Juan is already writing it. I can feel it. He's getting in it. And then without further ado, Aidan, what's next? What's happening?
Well, I just came out with American Guest on HBO Max. It's the Teddy Roosevelt's exploration in South America with the great Brazilian explorer Cândido da Silva Rondon. And it's the story also of when he was president, flashbacks. It's a 4-part miniseries. And I did a little action film with an up-and-comer called Liam Neeson, that's it. I did a little action thing that came out last month. We did that in Melbourne in the middle of COVID, and I'm working on firing my agent and getting a new one. Did I say that? Yes, I did. I do. I have a new London agent, so that's partly what I was over there doing. And I'm doing SVU. I'm doing another episode of that. They asked me to come back. I did one last year. They asked me to come back and do another one. So, yeah. And I'm collecting my pension every month that I'm not working.
Yes.
Thank you, SAG.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you, the foundation. So give everybody, a hand, seriously, for being part of this conversation. Feel that energy. Take it to the next job. I can't wait for you guys to continue to collaborate. And for those of you watching, please take the time to watch Spike. This is an amazing debut film by a very promising director. Believe me, he's vetted. We know he's super talented. This actor's vetted him as well. And they had a lot of fun making this movie, even though they sweat it out a little bit in Tucson, Arizona. So don't forget to watch Spike. On behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, I want to thank you for sharing your experiences, process, and craft with your fellow performers.